Bueno, ¿qué tal? Muy buenos días a todos, muy buenas tardes. Hola, hola, 1, 2. Estoy probando a ver si sale. Sí, evidentemente sale. Rodrigo Pérez, gracias por los saludos. Rubén, gracias por estar ahí también, como siempre. Eduardo Alberto, Matrix, Elon Musk, la máscara de Dalí, ¿qué tal? Gracias, Hugo García. Bueno, eh, estamos conectados a una teleconferencia de NASA. Estamos acreditados como medio de prensa. No va a haber imágenes, solo vamos a tener audio, porque por eso es una teleconferencia y es un informe respecto a las pérdidas de la nave Soyuz que está acoplada a la estación espacial y que todo parece ser que descubrieron que tiene un orificio, un agujero de 0,8 milímetros, o sea, 0,8 de milímetros, no llega a 1 milímetro, pero eh, 0,8 milímetros en una nave espacial es muchísimo, ¿no? Vamos a ver qué nos dicen. Vamos a ver un poquito, a ver quiénes son los que están en la teleconferencia. Tengo un correo. Pensé que tenía un correo a cada mano, pero el correo es solo de acceso. Voy a buscar un poquito más. Obviamente debe estar Montalbano, que es el gerente de la estación espacial, pero vamos a revisar un poquito más. Bueno, aquí tenemos la información, sí, obviamente. Joel Montalbano, el administrador de la Estación Espacial Internacional por el NASA John's Space Center Houston, y va a estar también Sergei Krikalev, el director ejecutivo de programas de vuelo humano de Roscosmos. Pensé que iba a haber alguien más, pero bueno, no, solo 2 participantes. Esto se refiere a que el día 14 de diciembre se encontraron con que había una pérdida cuando los sensores de presión en la nave mostraron una variación en las lecturas. El momento de la pérdida, Roscosmos se estaban preparando los astronautas rusos, o sea, los cosmonautas, para una caminata espacial, que fue suspendida y pospuesta. Ninguno de los miembros de la tripulación que están a bordo de la estación espacial fue expuesto a la pérdida, o sea, al amoníaco, que es lo que realmente es la pérdida que sufrió la nave espacial. La NASA hizo una inspección posterior a eso con el brazo canadiense robótico y estuvieron analizándolo junto con Roscosmos. La nave esta, la MS-22, llevó a los astronautas Frank Rubio y a los cosmonautas de Roscosmos Sergei Prokofiev y Dmitry Petelin, que fueron lanzados de Kazajstán el día 21 de septiembre.
Please stand by. Today's call will begin momentarily. Again, please stand by. Today's call will begin momentarily.
Bueno, dicen que ya van a empezar. Rubén dice, ¿cómo te encuentras, Dani? Bien, perfecto. Muchas ganas de seguir adelante, como siempre, ¿no? Con todo. Ayer me puse a hacer una puerta metálica con una moladora y cosas para cortar hierro y caños y a soldar. Y otra vez me pasé. Tuve que parar porque me pasé de rosca, ¿no? Quedé un momento que me faltaba el aire, pero bueno, es porque yo estaba haciendo mucho más allá de lo que podía. Pero me siento, esa es la prueba de que de a ratos me siento bárbaro, ¿no? Miguel Eduardo Vélez dice buenos días. El amoníaco usado como refrigerante es muy peligroso. Ojalá no quede impregnado en el metal de la estación espacial y contamine los trajes, ya que ahora están en caminata espacial. Sí, hoy a las 9 a.m. comenzó una caminata espacial. Vamos a ponerla porque debe haber.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for standing by. I'd like to inform all parties that today's call will be recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I'd like to inform all participants that there will be a Q&A session. At that time, if you'd like to ask a question, you may press star 1. I'd now like to turn the call over to your host. You may begin whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us virtually from NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I'm Sandra Jones, and thank you so much for your patience this morning as we work
Bueno,
through a
Sandra
couple of
Jones es
technical
quien está hablando
We are here
de
today to
Johnson
discuss
Space
the
Center.
ongoing investigation of an external leak that occurred December 14th from the Roscosmos Soyuz MS-22 spacecraft docked to the Rosviet module of the International Space Station. We're going to start off by hearing from a couple of folks off the top. They'll give their opening remarks, and then we'll move into our question and answer session.
Bueno, van a empezar a hablar un poquito sobre el tema.
Rather, on the phone bridge, excuse me. If you're on the phone, please press star 1 to add your name to our queue and ask a question. So I'm going to start off by introducing our participants today, and then I'll hand it over for opening remarks. So joining us today are Joel Montalbano, the manager of the International Space Station
Bueno, Joel Montalbano es quien va a hablar.
NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, and Sergey Krikalev, the Executive Director for Human Space
Estaba diciendo de Joel y Sergey, que son los dos que van a hablar.
Hey, thank you, Sandra, and thank you
Ahí
everybody for
tenemos a
your
Joe,
patience. I know
Joe
we got
Montalbano.
started a little late today. Let's see, just give you a status of ISS, and then we'll talk about the leak. But just approximately 7:30 Central Time this morning, we opened the hatch, and we began another EVA to install an augmented solar array on board the International Space Station. This was one of the arrays that was brought up on SpaceX 26. As you know, earlier in December, we installed an array on the 3A channel. Today's array work is on the 4A channel. And outside, we have Frank Rubio and Josh Cassada. Right now, when looking at the timeline, things continue to be on time. And if we continue and stay on this pace, we're looking to roll out that solar array approximately 1 o'clock Central or so. Now, that may move a little bit, but everything was going on track when I left.
Joe nos está contando de que tienen ya están los 3 astronautas en la caminata espacial.
But as many of you know, we had an orbital debris notification, and we had to do an altitude adjustment of the space
Bueno,
station.
ayer dice tuvimos que hacer una corrección en la estación espacial por basura espacial
There was nothing that was requiring the EVA to occur yesterday, so moving out one day
y cambiamos la caminata prevista para el día de ayer, pero justamente para hacer la corrección esa, nada más.
And so that's why we moved the EVA one day. Looking forward, the SpaceX 26 mission continues to just do very well. The vehicle's in good shape. Right now, the planning date for undocking is January 9th. Now, as we get a little closer,
bueno, dice que está planificada el desacople para el 9 de enero, que la nave, o sea, hablando de la estación espacial y de la Soyuz, está bien.
Experiment with tomatoes, where the crew will grow tomatoes on board. It's about an 80-day experiment.
Bueno, está hablando de que tienen tomates a bordo y que han hecho crecer en la estación espacial, que van a volver justamente a la Tierra. Bueno, crear, o sea, hacer crecer comida, o sea, la agricultura a bordo es fundamental para las futuras misiones espaciales, ¿no?
The Russian cosmonauts were preparing for an EVA. They had not exited the vehicle, and so there was no contamination concerns. Mission Control Center Moscow canceled that EVA, and the team focused on better understanding the cooling leak. Since then, the Mission Control Center Houston and the Mission Control Center Moscow teams have been talking on a regular basis to understand what happened, the cause of what happened, and the future steps. And with that, let me hand it over to,
no han tenido problemas de contaminación y han seguido estudiando el tema justamente de la pérdida, ¿no?
Good morning, everybody. And just continue what Joe said, that during preparation to EVA, we found a
Qué feo se escucha.
an external coolant loop on Soyuz spacecraft, and
Es Sergey
monitoring
Krikalev.
this leak with the cameras, we saw some explosion of coolant from radiator. We stopped EVA, returned crew back to the vehicle, and start to estimate what really is happening. We looked through telemetry, recorded telemetry, and we proved that we lose all coolant from radiator pretty quickly. The external rejection of heat from Soyuz was terminated, and we found approximate position of this damage on radiator. At this point, the station was going through a meteor shower, but after extra analysis, we found that penetration of radiator happened from different directions. It's basically an off-starboard side of the vehicle.
Hugo Chávez dice hoy que podían contaminarse sus trajes y meter residuos dentro de la ISS. Bueno, esa es una de las cosas de las que se cuidan siempre, justamente. No solo residuos, en este caso de amoníaco, sino cuando pasan, inclusive cerca de los lugares de escape de los motores, de la hidracina, o sea, de los combustibles hipergólicos de las naves espaciales que están acopladas, ¿no?
Thank you, Sergey. So next up, we'll hear from the folks on the line that do have a question. So first up on our dial-in line is Jeff Faust with Space.
Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta para transmitirles, es el momento de hacerlo y la
My
hago.
question, it sounds like from previous reports you expect to make a decision sometime next week on the course of action regarding Soyuz MS-22. I wanted to confirm if that schedule is correct, and if so, if you decide you need to send up the next Soyuz early uncrewed, what that means for future crew rotations to the space station. Thanks.
Bueno, en caso que tengan que mandar una Soyuz vacía, dice, ¿qué significa eso para la rotación de tripulaciones en el futuro?
Clean, so maybe try to speak a little slower.
Yeah, my question is, do you expect to make a decision next week on what to do with Soyuz MS-22?
¿Van a decidir de eso? ¿Van a
And if you
decidir
need to
la semana que
send up
viene?
a rescue vehicle without a crew,
¿O van a
what that
y
means
si mandan una
for
nave de
future
rescate,
crew rotation to the
¿qué
station?
significa para la rotación de tripulaciones? ¿Cómo impacta?
If we wouldn't be able to return crew back in a nominal way, and right now we are doing thermal analysis to see if it's safe to do it for the crew. So if it's not going to be safe, then next spacecraft that's supposed to fly in the middle of March for crew rotation would be sent up unmanned to have healthy vehicle on board the station to be able to rescue crew. And further flight plans need to be readjusted.
No le entiendo nada, la verdad. La verdad no le entiendo nada. Entre que habla inglés
Okay, great. Our
con
next
ruso
question comes
y
from
lo mal
Joey
que se
Roulette
escucha
with
no le
Reuters.
entiendo nada.
Hey, thanks. Question for Sergey. Was the
Rubén, si no hubiese hecho la corrección, si hubiese corrido peligro, sí, hubiera pasado a 400 metros calculados la basura espacial, o sea, sí era necesaria hacerla.
From Soyuz, and also, I guess this is for Joel or Sergey. If something on the station happens that would warrant safe haven procedures, while you guys are evaluating the health of Soyuz 22, what would the plan be for that? What's the I guess contingency plan since one of the safe lifeboats is kind of out of service now? Thanks.
Well, may I start from safe haven? Station is now safe haven plus for our flight rules. If vehicle is unable to return back crew safely, it's supposed to be returned back in automated mode with no crew. And for this period of time, crew is staying on board the station. So it's basically most safe scenario. As I said, we are doing analysis and assess the risk for nominal reentry. And if nominal reentry is dangerous or not safe enough, I would say, then we will either send the actual vehicle to have a good spacecraft for the crew. And for period of time before we send this vehicle, we keep assessing risk, and we have several ways of reentry. Beyond nominal reentry, we have reentry in analog mode, expedited reentry. So it depends on current situation and extra emergency on board the station. We probably do some kind of expedited return using this space if we need to leave the station.
And Joey, on the coolant, the direction of the leak was aft and starboard, and it boils off very quickly. And so we're not concerned with any contaminants left on board. In fact, that was a discussion we had before the spacewalk, and the teams had looked at it, and there's no issue with contamination.
Gotcha. And one quick follow-up question
No
on
hay
that. In the
problemas con
video,
la
it looks like
contaminación,
the
dice.
spraying was kind of going in multiple uncontrolled directions. Was it just coming from like a single hole that was fixed, or was there like a hose that was loose or something, or I don't know?
The coolant was coming
And
from
actually, our first.
Go ahead, Sergey.
Go ahead, Bill.
It was a single hole. The teams are off looking at, we're trying to get better video and imagery of that hole. So right now we haven't confirmed that it's an MMOD, a micrometeorite debris, or some other type of failure. We're trying to get imagery
Muy
to get us some better
posiblemente sea un
information.
micrometeorito
As
el
Sergey
agujero.
said, we did look at the meteor showers that were occurring, and both the trajectory team in Houston and the trajectory team in Moscow confirmed it was not from the meteor showers, it was in the wrong direction.
No
And so we
fue
got some work to do with imagery
de los
to better
micrometeoritos,
understand
no fue.
if it was a meteorite hit or if
Por
it
la
was
dirección en que impactó,
a
ellos ya
hardware
sabían que
issue, and
había
that work is in front of
una
us.
lluvia de micrometeoritos, pero no fue la lluvia
Thank you.
de
Our next question
micrometeoritos.
is,
One of our first.
go ahead, Sergey.
Let me continue. Our first analysis, because we knew the place of the damage not very precise, we started to do engineering drawing to see if it could be, what kind of reason can be for this leak. So we did several assessments, didn't find anything, and finally, with the help of our colleagues from NASA, we got an image showing that actually we have damage of the surface of radiator. Our specialist looked very closely, and we started to do engineering drawing to see if it could be having this damage. Small pipe with coolant was also damaged, and size of the leak was relatively small.
No sé ustedes, pero para mí me resulta imposible tratar de entender lo que dice el ruso.
Thank you both. Our next question comes from Gina Sensuri with ABC News.
Good morning. I know you can't detect, you can detect only certain sizes of meteorites, but how large or small would a piece be to puncture a hole in the Soyuz? Do you have any data on that?
I can start, Sergey, then you can add.
Estimate the size of the particle that damaged the Soyuz. We need to do some investigation, but damage on the surface is about 4 millimeters in diameter, and damage of the pipe that hold the coolant liquid is less than 1 millimeter.
Eso le preguntaron recién cuál es el diámetro cuando se habla de micrometeorito, pero no le entiendo nada de lo que dice, está contestando el ruso. El diámetro del agujero que se hizo fue de 0,8 milímetros.
Right. Our next question comes from Todd Shields with Bloomberg News.
Hi, I apologize. It could be I have a bad line, but could you confirm that what I've heard is that right now you all are evaluating the consequences of the leak and have made no decision on whether to send the Soyuz early?
¿Cuál es la decisión? O sea, de no mandar la Soyuz.
Is that what we've been saying? Go ahead, please.
To whom are you directing your question?
Sergey, I guess. I think he was speaking to that.
So as I said, we don't have final decision. Can we return crew
Hemos tomado una decisión final.
vehicle, damaged vehicle or not? We do our assessment, and we have basically two options. One is we return crew
Dos
back
opciones.
on this vehicle if it's safe enough, and we do, it's basically thermal analysis we need to do to see how rapidly temperature is going to rise in equipment compartment, in crew compartment, and if we see that temperature would be and thermal mode would be inside of nominal limits, we would be able to do nominal reentry. In case we see that risk for the crew is too high, then our next crew, as I said, was scheduled to fly in middle of March. We start to see if we can expedite the launch of this vehicle, and it can be sent up a little earlier, but not much earlier. It's about 2-3 weeks earlier. That's the maximum what we can do at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And if you are on the phone line, just a reminder to press *1 to add your name to the queue. And if you can, please state your name, affiliation, and to whom you'd like to address your question to. We would really appreciate it. Our next question comes from David Curley with the Discovery Channel.
Thank you very much. First, a question, David Curley from the Discovery Channel. Joel, you said there was an alert on the space station about cooling. Specifically, was that just that something was amiss with the Soyuz specifically? There's no commingling. I'm assuming that's just data from Soyuz inside the station. And Sergey, what was this loop and radiator responsible for cooling? Do you have a backup? Could you possibly re-enter if you weren't able to use, as you're not able to use this radiator and loop? Thank you.
Le preguntó en caso de la reentrada
For my part of the
si
question,
no
we
pueden
first
usar
saw the
ese
onboard video
radiador, si
of the
pueden,
leak,
tienen un
and then
sistema B,
through
o sea,
conversations
un
with
plan
the
B.
Mission Control Center Moscow, they had pressure sensor indications that were showing a leak, and so that's how it was communicated
Bueno,
to the flight
primero
control.
dice, la gente de Moscú nos avisó de la pérdida de presión justamente.
Any special alert on the station. It was
Ese
just
fue Montalbano.
monitoring
Y
of
ahora
the
Sergei
ground.
está hablando.
And for my part of the question, talking about backup things, while Soyuz is docked to the station, we can cool crew compartment using
Esta teleconferencia de prensa está teniendo lugar
from the station. And
mientras
that's what we are doing right now.
tres tripulantes están haciendo una caminata espacial con el tema de los paneles solares airosa. Ya comunicaron que no hay riesgo de contaminación de amoníaco y están hablando sobre la pérdida que hubo, sobre el agujero que se hizo en la Soyuz MS-22. Lamentablemente, la calidad del audio de Sergei Krikalev de Roscosmos es muy mala y no, la verdad, sinceramente, yo no le entiendo lo que está diciendo.
We don't know exactly how high it's going to happen, and our specialists in Russia and together with specialists in Houston are going to estimate the rate of rise of the temperature and what maximum temperature can be reached during different modes of reentry, nominal reentry, expedited reentry. So we will do this analysis for different modes and see if it's going to be safe for the crew and the equipment.
Did this loop cool anything other than the crew compartment?
It's actually, we have two loops, one internal loop which could crew compartment, and this internal loop is coupled with external loop. So we lose capability of reject heat from external loop. So we still have some kind of averaging temperature inside crew compartment, but as soon as we close hatches and we lose capability to chill down crew compartment with chilled air from the station, temperature starts to rise. We will have only natural radiation from the vehicle, and it might be not enough to stable temperature. So as I said, we are assessing how high and how rapidly temperature will rise with all power sources inside the vehicle, including crew.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Chris Davenport with the Washington Post.
Hi, thank you very much. This is for Joel, just because I think I have a bad line too, and I'm having a very hard time hearing Sergey. Joel, I wonder if you could help me clarify in terms of the time frame, if you do have to send up MS-23 as a rescue vehicle, about when that would happen. I
Le
think
está
I heard
preguntando
2
Joe
to 3
porque dice que
weeks
no le
earlier.
entiende nada a
And then
Sergey.
what, if that happens,
Dice, van a
what would
mandar la
happen to
MS-23.
MS-22? Thank
¿Y qué
you.
es lo que le pasa a la MS-22?
Okay, I'll answer, and then Sergey, I'm sure, will listen, and he can give me any updates. But right now, we're scheduled for the rotation to occur in the March timeframe. Roscosmos is looking to move that up 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They're looking at late February to send up the next Soyuz vehicle. If it's decided, and it hasn't been done yet, but if it's decided that it's an uncrewed Soyuz, Roscosmos would plan to return the current Soyuz on orbit and collect the data so they can use that for future evaluations of missions. And Sergey, if you want to add anything, feel free.
Now, Joe, thank you for translating from Russian version of English.
Dice que si mandan la MS-23, la MS-22 va a venir vacía y la van a utilizar justamente para evaluar datos en el futuro.
After this call later today, so hopefully that will help folks on the line that are having a difficult time hearing him. We do have one more question in the queue from Steve Gorman with Reuters.
Bueno, ¿alguien quiere hacer una pregunta? Podemos llegar a hacerlo ahora.
Thank you very much. One of my questions is, had this leak occurred while the Soyuz MS-22 had been in flight, would that have compromised the ability to control its flight, its direction and attitude and so forth? And if that's the case, does that render that spacecraft unusable unless the leak were to be fixed?
I also have very bad quality of sound. Do I understand correctly this question? What is going to happen if this flight would be in autonomous mode before getting to the station? Is it right?
Yeah, my question is, if the leak had occurred while the Soyuz was in flight in autonomous mode, would the leak itself, the propellant effect of the leak, cause problems in controlling the direction and attitude of the spacecraft?
Si llegan a tener esa pérdida cuando está en vuelo autónomo, dice, ¿eso puede afectar el control de la nave?
It's relatively small, so attitude control would easily correct all effects from leaking of propellant. But if it's going to happen in autonomous flight before we dock with the station, then crew will probably go for expedited re-entry on the ground. So we would probably cancel the mission.
And it looks like we do have a couple folks that are asking some follow-up questions. So we have Joey Roulette with Reuters.
Yeah, just quick question either for Sergey or Joel. If this hole was caused by space debris, for example, could that have been something that would be big enough to have tracked, or is the hole small, like too small to indicate that it was hit by something trackable? Thanks.
If it's determined that space debris is too small, yes, I agree.
Thank you. And our last question in the queue is Jeff Faust with Space News.
Yeah, a question for Joel. I'm curious what NASA role is in this investigation. Are you have access to participation in any of the meetings going on in Russia to look at the status of the Soyuz?
And so, as you know, Jeff, we have a crew member on this vehicle, and so Roscosmos has reached out to us. We have tag-ups at my level. Sergey and I talk on a regular basis. And we also have tag-ups daily.
Dice, tenemos un tripulante nuestro de esta nave. Dice, nos hablamos a diario con Sergey. Dice, ¿cómo fue que nos avisó justamente de la pérdida?
We talked a little bit about the meteor showers. We both looked at both Mission
hemos
Control
aislado
Center
los
Houston and
datos
Mission Control Center
justamente
Moscow
para,
looked at the
hemos
direction of the
descartado
meteor
la
showers
lluvia
and came up to
de
the same
meteoros.
conclusion. So the teams work together as we always have, and
Trabajamos
nothing has
juntos como
changed
hemos
in that
hecho
front.
siempre, dice Joe Montalbano.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Sergey.
No, I just completely agree. And if we have some technical discussion among us or inside only on Russian side, then we share the result of the discussion with our partners.
Great, thank you so much. Well, that is the last question that we have in the queue today. So thanks to all who submitted questions, and thank you both Joel and Sergey for taking time out of your busy schedules to take some time to chat about this. So thanks again for joining us. That will wrap up today's briefing.
Bueno, está terminando el briefing de hoy, dice, con esta última pregunta que hicieron, así que, bueno.
Thank you everyone for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.
Bueno, están terminando justamente la conferencia en este momento. Nos van a desconectar, lo desconectamos nosotros. Ahí está. Estábamos hablando por teléfono, así que ese fue el sonido, la desconexión telefónica. ¿Con qué bloquean ese edificio? Es una muy buena pregunta, José Carlos. Lástima que ya pasamos el momento de hacer las preguntas. Si hubiera venido antes, con mucho gusto la transmitíamos. Me parece muy interesante. Henk, no entiendo qué es lo que está poniendo Henk. La música no se escucha, ¿verdad? Teóricamente debería estar saliendo música, pero no, veo que no está saliendo. Estoy tratando de ver si efectivamente sale o no la música. Debería estar saliendo, pero no sale. No tengo retorno de que salga la música. Hola 1, 2, no. ¿Pero tiene arreglo o no? Bueno, evidentemente estaban hablando de que van a mandar una MS-23, o sea, nueva Soyuz, y que si hacen eso, la MS-22 que está acoplada, que es la que tuvo pérdidas, va a volver sola, sin tripulantes, y van a tomar todos los datos para evaluar para futuras misiones, justamente para tomar mejores decisiones, ¿no? Sonó unos segundos, dice Rubén. Ups, de repente cuando toqué algo acá, a ver, ahí está sonando. O quizás ahí. ¿Qué cosa? No tengo forma de verlo, bueno. Acá está. Dice Robert, encuentra una ciudad evolucionada en la superficie de Marte, dice Hank. No, por favor. Ese tipo de comentarios no es para nosotros, no es para este canal. Y si sinceramente tenés algo real, estaría bueno que lo pongas, pero no esto. Bueno, mientras estamos viendo que hay una caminata espacial, vamos a poner un poquito de volumen. Si es que hay algo de que estén hablando para que salga. Evidentemente tenemos un problema de audio, que no hay algunos audios que no. Ahí está. No.
Okay, so we'll just confirm those settings. It's been a bit. Bravo 2, counterclockwise 2, and it's going to be 18 to 20 turns. The bolt will spring out when it's fully released.
Okay, I've got Bravo 2, counterclockwise 2, Let's stay at 18 to 20 turns.
Good feedback.
We're on R6. All right.
Bueno, ahora sí tenemos música.
So Josh Castro,
Bueno,
right
muchas
now
gracias.
releasing the final hinge restraint. Once this is released,
Vamos a cortar acá el streaming. Muchísimas gracias. Gracias a todos.
the IROSA array.
Nos vemos muy pronto. Estamos preparando un mensaje y vamos a subirlo al canal. De repente lo hacemos en directo también. Un abrazo enorme. Muchísimas gracias.
On the robotic arm, he's going to get out of that foot restraint and start making his way back over. And then once he gets into position, over on the other side of the mounting bracket, Frank Rubio is going to slowly start to pivot, and that's going to allow IROSA to start to unfold.
Copy, good release.